Welcome to episode number 358 of Get Paid for Your Pet. And today we're going to talk about a very hot topic. We're going to talk about pet-friendly Airbnb listings. And I'm here with my friend Mathieu Laflamme. He's the co-founder of Check-In, a property management company out of Montreal. And he manages about 70 units, and half of them are pet-friendly. Mathieu, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jasper.
It's my pleasure, man. I'm really excited about this. We're going to cover a lot of topics, so we'll dive right into it. But let me name the topics real quick. We're going to talk about what type of pets do you allow, how much do you charge for pets, what are the risks, the potential damages, extra cleaning expenses, and lastly, is it a good idea to cater specifically to people who travel with pets? But first, let me talk a little bit about why we chose this topic. So recently, as everybody probably know, a lot of people are traveling to drive to destinations, which means it's much easier to bring their pets with them. But also people travel for different reasons, right? They travel to do like a staycation or to work away from home. They bring their children because they're not going to school right now. They bring the whole family and they want to bring their pets. But even before COVID, I did a little bit of research, and 14% of Americans have traveled with a pet in the last 3 years, and 50% of dog owners would pay more for a pet-friendly stay. That's data by TripAdvisor. So lots of reasons to consider allowing pets in your units, but a lot of people have concerns about it. So let's dive in right now. Mathieu, I would love to know, what type of pets do you allow in your units?
We personally accept solely dogs. That's how we promote our listing, that we are dog friendly in approximately 50% of our listing. Of course, certain type of dog we do not accept depending on a few restrictions. If it's a puppy, or for example, if the guest doesn't have any positive review on Airbnb, we might decline the request. But even if it's shedding or hypoallergenic, we will accept it. We just will request a few house rules to be accepted.
Right, and we'll dive into that, into the extra house rules and how to do this in a safe way. But you mentioned you don't allow all dogs. Like, is there a specific breed or size of dog that you don't allow?
Not really. It's really depending on the age, and we ask, the first question that we ask before accepting the dog is really what type of breed it is and how old it is, just to create a connection between us and the guests. And we tell them that we are animal lover, pet friendly, but we had bad experience in the past, and we'd like to know the breed, the age, and also sometimes we ask about the personality of the dog, if he's barking, things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about cats?
Cats, it's mainly because a few of our housekeepers and my co-founder, Steve, the other co-founder, are deeply allergic to cat. So we restrict this type of animals.
Right. Yeah. And do people even travel with other type of pets? Have you ever had somebody with like a parrot or a goat or whatnot?
I already received a request for a furet. I don't know if you know that pet. It's in French you say a furet, but it's like a long-tailed animal that you don't see it quite often, but a few pet owners have furet.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, yeah. That's like a kind of like kind of looks like a big rat, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I did a little bit of research, and I noticed that most people who accept pets, they accept dogs, but not cats. And one reason that a lot of people don't accept cats is because when they urinate, it's a very strong smell that's really difficult to clean.
You're right.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. So how much do you charge extra for a pet? So a dog in your case.
Uh, we have a few properties that we generate less than $2,000 per month with them because we rent monthly. For this type of unit that we rent monthly, we don't charge too much because it will just looks excessive if we charge like $50 per night. So we capped it to $150 per month or $25 per night. For our leisure market or for the short-term urban unit, we ask for $50 a night, and it's capped to $250. Again, if the owner approach us and tell us, hey, my dog is hypoallergenic, he doesn't shed, I have 5 positive review on Airbnb, of course, there's some type of negotiation just to be fair with that guest if he is able to prove that the risk attached to its pet being with him is less than someone arriving with a big Labrador, and we know that we will have to spend a few more minutes on the vacuum at the end of the stay.
Yeah, and I love Labradors. I used to have Labradors when I was living with my parents. But for the people who don't know, what does it mean, hypoallergenic?
If it means that even though there's a few hairs left in the crack of the sofas or attached to the chairs of the table, if the future guests are allergic to dog's hair, they won't be affected by it. So few dogs are like this, like poodle. Often dogs with curvy hair are hypoallergenic, and but I know that cats, maybe the Siamese or cat without hair, these are okay, but all cats are not hypoallergenic.
Interesting. So it doesn't just depend on the size of the hair. It also depends on the breed. So certain dogs, their hairs, like people are more allergic to the hairs than other dogs.
Exactly.
Interesting. And then you mentioned that most of the dogs that are hypoallergenic are the dogs with curly hair, right?
Yeah, I know my stepsister has a doodle, a golden doodle, and first he doesn't lose any hair, and he is hypoallergenic, so she can bring the dog everywhere she goes, and every time she's looking to rent a place, the owners don't have a lot of restriction when you have a golden doodle.
So if you have a dog who has hair that's like really allergic, or people get allergic reactions from it, if you take it to the hairdresser and use that machine to make the hair curly, does it turn that into a hyperallergenic dog?
No, I don't think so. It depends on the breed of the dog.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that strategy doesn't work. Okay, cool. So you mentioned you charge $25 per night, $50 per night, kept at about 250
maximum.
Yeah, per stay. I did some research. I noticed that people charge typically anywhere between like $10 and $50 a night. People usually cap it at some point, right? Because if somebody stays for like 2-3 weeks, then you might just charge them one price for the entire stay. People tend to charge based on the breed and the size of the dog, as well, as you mentioned. If it's a hypoallergenic dog, then you don't have as much cleaning costs, and there's not as much risk for future guests, right?
Yeah, you got to be able to sell it as a privilege to the guests, because many guests won't understand why you're charging extra fees, because maybe they had a previous experience with hosts that were not charging fees. So you got to explain that in your city, in your region, there are just a few percentage of hosts that are pet friendly, and we are dog lovers, so we are happy to host you with your pet so that you have a memorable stay. But We got to figure the risk, the extra cleaning fees, and unfortunately, we had bad experience in the past. So that's why we charge extra fees. It's a way to generate more revenue, but at the same time, you filter the guest that knows they won't be able to control their dog. If you mention that you will claim the security deposit if you find damage or exit, or you have to do an excessive cleaning, maybe a few guests will decide to cancel their reservation or cancel their inquiry because they feel they're not sure about their dog behavior.
And how do you receive the money? Do you just use the functionality on Airbnb to request some extra dollars?
This is a process that we implemented because of our accounting. We don't take 100% of the pet fees. So our owner get the majority of the extras we get on the guest, and we take our commission out of it. So the way we do is that we change the total cost of the stay with our PMS. You can do it directly on Airbnb too. So instead of doing a request of money, a money request on Airbnb, you just change the nightly rate so that it an extra 100 or 200 bucks, and then we get our commission on the extra.
Sure. Yeah, and that's because you're a manager, right? You're managing properties for owners. And one thing that I noticed as well as I was doing some research is that some people, they'll ask the guests to just add the pet as an extra person, as an extra guest, and then automatically it will charge as an extra guest. So that's an interesting way to do it too.
Yeah, good idea.
All right, let's go into the next topic, which is what are the risks? Because a lot of people are concerned to become pet friendly because they are thinking about, they have visions of wild dogs running around their apartments, like tearing up their furniture, their furnishings and the decorations and all of that. Visions of dogs attacking their neighbors and causing all sorts of problems. And of course, the hair and the allergies is something that we already touched on. So my question to you is, I know you have 70 units, you've been in business for quite a while. How realistic are these concerns?
They are realistic if you do not apply strict house rules. And I'd say it's better to put strict house rule over there, even though it could scare a few guests, and prohibit a certain type of dog, like puppies. Yeah, of course, the vast majority of puppies could stay with you, but it's better to not accept them so that you won't have any difficulty getting a claim. For us, the biggest risk is two things. If we lose trust with the owner, if our owner lose trust in us because we have damages, and secondly, if we demotivate our housekeeping crew, like if they spend their time in cleaning excessive dog hair on sofas, beds, bedding, it's not good for us. Like everybody should do regular cleaning most of the time, and yeah, of course, from time to time there's an excessive cleaning, but we need to figure out a system and processes to limit excessive cleaning, even though we accept dogs that might lose their hair. So yeah, there's risk, but you can control them by filtering the type of dog, like puppy versus adult, filtering the type of guest. Do they have at least one positive review? Do they understand that you are asking for a quick vacuum, maybe at the end of the stay, to not visit the neighbors with your dog, like to have it in leash if he's outside. No barking. If you're in a 3-apartment building and the dog bark every time someone ring at the door, then maybe the other guests will leave you a bad review. So that's bad. So you got to figure out and ask, do your dog have does your dog have bad barking habit before accepting the dog? And that's what we do with all our apartment, even if they don't have dog, is we limit the age to 25 years old and over. So normally people are more mature over 25 years old and understand that they need to control their dog.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, I've definitely hosted quite a few jogs, and in my experience, people that travel with a dog, if people have a crazy dog, they usually don't bring it on the trip, in my experience.
Yeah, you're right.
So if you're going to bring your dog, it's probably going to be a fairly well-behaved one. And yeah, I honestly haven't had any real issues. But and what I see from doing some research, looking in groups and stuff, is that generally people who do host pets, they actually report very few issues. But I think it's really important what you mentioned is to, number one, really understand like what type of dog and what type of people you, or at least do some screening, right? Communicate with the guest, like, hey, what kind of dog is it? Does it bark a lot, etc. Get a little bit of information, and then let your guest know that there are specific rules, right, around barking and putting the dog on the leash. And if the dog does damage, or if there's excessive cleaning necessary, that you're going to charge for it. So that's a really important point. Clearly communicate those house rules. So we talked about allergies already, because that's an important topic too, right? Because what if your cleaners are allergic to dogs? What if you're if you have family members, if you're using the home to stay in yourself, or if your owners are allergic to dogs? Do you have any concerns around that?
That's one of the main reasons why only 50% of our units are dog friendly, is mainly because we were not able to convince a few of our owner yet. Some of our owner are allergic, or the housekeeping team in the region where the units are allergic. So there's nothing we can do about it, and they still get pretty good review. We thought, even though I talk about the pros, regarding the recurring business with guests with pets, the pros about getting more revenue, getting the extra fees. There's still a few owners that had bad experience in the past, and or housekeeper that are not even allergic, but they don't want to put they're scared that they will have to do excessive cleaning. And in a few regions where we operate in the leisure market in Quebec, it's pretty hard to find housekeeping staff. So when you find them, and if they are not willing to accept pet, we'll go ahead and apply the no pet rules.
Got it. Yeah, you mentioned obviously one of the reasons why you want to accept pets is because it can increase revenue. Like on average, how much extra revenue do you see between your pet-friendly listings versus your non-pet-friendly listings?
If you add the fact that you ask for extra fees, so between 15 and 25, sometimes up to $50 a night, plus the fact that your average daily rate might be higher because you're attracting a demand that has just a few offers on the market. There's maybe maximum 10% of the unit in my region that allows pet friendly. I think that compared to the same unit in our market, we are able to increase the revenue by 15 to 25% at least.
15 to 25%. So that's quite significant, right? So that's definitely a good reason to consider accepting pets. Plus, if you're a dog lover yourself, it's cool to host people that bring their dogs because you already have something in common. So you're able to provide like a really cool experience for the guest. And as you mentioned, there's only so many people that accept pets, right? So you're kind of almost creating a little niche for yourself, which is actually the next topic that we want to talk about is is it a good idea to develop a brand or to cater specifically to pet-friendly travelers?
I think it's a good idea. I never tried it myself to build a brand around the dog friendly or pet friendly. But when we do create a listing that is dog friendly, we go all in. We don't just put it in the also that we are dog friendly. Like you go all in because you want to attract this piece of the pie that don't have a lot of offers. So you add it to your title, you add it to your first picture on Airbnb, and of course you talk about it in your description. That way, people by just flicking the different listing on Airbnb or flicking on Verbo, they will see that, oh, here's a picture of a dog park. Here's a title where there's an emoji of a dog. Okay, I should click over. I should click and talk about my issue of bringing a pet with me to that host. So I don't know if it's a good idea to build a brand around dog friendly, but of course you need to put it in front when you are dog friendly to get this 15 to 25 average daily rate increase.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. Because some people mention that they don't want to advertise it, so they do make their listing pet friendly. It's an option that you can select in your listing, but then they don't want to advertise it because they're worried that there's a lot of guests that don't want to stay at a place that is pet friendly. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It's just hard to calculate that risk. The things that I was able to calculate is the other side where our revenue increased. But I don't know how we could do an analysis or a survey where you can get a quantitative survey on how much guests do not click on your property because you're promoting dog. But
Yeah, it's interesting. And I understand the rationale because there are people, for example, people that are allergic to dogs. If you put in your title dog friendly, you put a little emoticon of a dog, that person is not going to book your listing. But if you're in a market where there's a lot of demand and there's not a lot of supply, because it's not just about demand, it's about demand and supply, right? So if there's very little supply in your market for pet friendly, then it's totally fine to not attract the dog allergic traveler because the demand supply is in your favor, right? There's a lot of demand for pet friendly listings. So the fact that you're not attracting people that are concerned about dogs is not a problem, because in the end of the day, like it's better to be loved by a select number of guests than to be kind of average for the entire market, right? It's better to focus on a specific niche if there's enough demand in the market, right? Of course, if you're in a really small market, if you're in like a tiny little village somewhere and there's not a lot of demand, then I think that that pet friendly piece of the pie might not be large enough for you to be fully occupied. But in a market like yourself, Montreal, I guess you're seeing an increase in revenue. So to me, that's proof that in your market, it's working.
Exactly, and I think there's a way to balance your ad between promoting the dog friendly and still attracting people that could be a bit scared about the cleaning issue. Because if you have great reviews, 4.9, 5-star in the cleaning category of your reputation, and at the same time, in your first 5 picture on the Airbnb, when you click on the listing, you have, yes, a picture of a dog or a dog park, but at the same time, you have a picture of your cleaning protocol, or you're mentioning that you're doing deep sanitizing, deep professional cleaning. So it balances because you have great reviews. You mentioned that you have a professional cleaning team taking care of your guests, and yes, at the same time you're dog friendly. So there's a way in your first 5 pictures to balance the ad to attract both type of user.
That's a really good point. And something I noticed as well, I looked at a listing and the host mentioned that they use an anti-allergen spray to clean their units. So that might take away some of the concerns as well from people who are allergic to dogs.
Absolutely.
Last thing I want to touch on is like, do you have any like pet friendly amenities? Is there anything else you do in your units or around the experience that you're offering to your guests to make it more attractive to pet owners?
We do not supply any furniture or pet bed or special treat for the moment because we just started when COVID hit. We just started proposing our host to be dog friendly. We were not doing it in 2019. It was a way for us to try to increase the revenue, even though the urban market was lowering down on pricing and occupancy and demands. So but I visited a few websites of hotels that are dog friendly, and I saw that they have. Yeah, maybe you can talk. Have you ever visited with your Labrador a few dog friendly
that,
hotel?
that was a long time ago that we had Labradors. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah,
Good
because
idea.
I noticed some hosts they offer, you know, some pet friendly amenities. You know, for example, having a gate around your garden can be useful so that the dog doesn't run away. You know, having some interior gates or dog treats, dog bowls, stuff like that. You know, that could be something that would really attract the dog lover.
Poop bag.
Poo back, yeah, that's a good one. Is that why you prefer not to host puppies because they might pee and poo all over the place?
Yeah, and also their behavior. They're more risk about barking habit that could disturb the neighbors if you're in a multi apartment building. That's why we prefer to have a mature dog in our
Mature
unit.
dog, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Sweet man. Cool. Well, I think this was really useful. Just to kind of summarize, I think the main takeaways are number one, there's currently a lot of demand, right, for people traveling with their pets. There's a limited supply depending on the market. So if you want to start doing this, take a look on Airbnb, search for pet friendly units and see how many of them there already are in your market. If there's not a lot, could be a really good option to increase your revenue. I think there are risks for sure, but you made some really good points around how to mitigate the risk. You know, being a little bit selective to who you're allowing, only people with positive reviews, certain type of dogs, certain type of dog breeds. Be careful with puppies, and then yeah, the risks seem to be quite limited, and you can mitigate a lot of the risks. And it's a great way to offer a great experience to the guest as well, right? Because of course we all know that people love their dogs; they're part of the family. So when you're traveling as a family, and you can bring your dog, and you know that the host is welcoming your dog and is a dog lover as well, then I think that creates a bond as well. So yeah, anything else that you want to touch on?
Maybe a last tip to get the guests on your side, because what we saw is that a few guests sometimes are a bit frustrated that we charge extra fees, mainly because they don't have any good reviews on Airbnb. So we will increase a little bit the price per dog. It's just we say them that we will be happy to leave them a positive review mentioning the well-behaving dog that they brought with them at the end of their stay, so they have more. It's easy for them for the next Airbnb adventure to book a trip with their dog, because it's pretty rare that I check the reviews of a guest and the host mentioned the dog. But when I tell the guest, hey, I'm on your side and I'll leave a positive review if everything goes great at the end of the stay. But yeah.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point, because that's something that you look at, right? When you get an inquiry, you look at the past review of the guest to see if the host mentions something about the dog. It's a good point, man, because in the end of the day, allowing pets, there is extra risk. There might be some extra cleaning as well. So I think it's reasonable to charge a little bit extra. And by doing what you're suggesting, now you're offering great value to your guests. Because as you said, that's quite rare. So I love that. That's an amazing tip, man. Thank you for sharing that. Sweet dude. Well, this was awesome. I definitely learned a lot. You're in Montreal. You have over 70 units. How can people find you? If somebody wants to travel to Montreal, how can they find your units?
Our new direct booking website, spacecheckin.com, will be live at the end of the year. We will present a category for dog-friendly units on the front page of our website with long-term booking, short-term urban, and short-term in the leisure market. But we decided to go forward and add dog-friendly category on our direct booking website. So yeah, spacecheckin.com.
Spacecheckin.com. And if I look for check-in on Airbnb, can I find you? Can I find your Airbnb listings there too?
It's easy to find us because we put a picture of our brand on every listing, but we manage our host account. So we don't have any Airbnb account on our name on Airbnb because every one of our owner have their own Airbnb account.
Got it. Got it. And check-in is with IN at the end. Check-in. I guess it's always with with an I. Actually, I don't know why I mentioned that, but anyway, Mathieu, it was great talking to you, man. Appreciate you being a member of our STR Legends Mastermind, and to the listeners, thank you for listening or watching on YouTube, and hope you enjoyed this episode. And there'll be another one next week. See you then.